Hello everyone. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment saying where you're from and when you watched. That way, YouTube will continue to show you stories like this. Now, let's get started. Asterisk, I decided not to return to the Black Forest again, at least for the time being. After the bottomless staircase suddenly appeared and disappeared, along with the terrifying sound coming from underground, I knew I was facing a force that did not belong to this world. But at the same time, a question kept ringing in my mind. Did anyone ever go down that staircase and come back? During my search, I searched through old records in local newspapers and the Freiburg school archives. Most of them were unexplained disappearances around the Black Forest over the past 100 years. However, there was one case that caught my attention. A man named Johann Hartmann had disappeared in 1948, when he was only 18 years old, and suddenly reappeared 3 years later. No one knew where he had gone, but since his return, he had barely spoken to anyone and had lived in isolation in a wooden house near the southern border of the forest. It took me more than a week to track him down. The house was hidden in a small, damp valley. Surrounded by dense vegetation, I arrived on a gloomy afternoon when the sky was ash-colored and the smell of mold was in the air. When I knocked on the door, an elderly man opened. His face was gaunt, his eyes sunken, and his skin pale, as if he had not seen the sun in years. I introduced myself as a graduate student studying the paranormal and wanted to ask him about the missing years. He stared at me for a long time without blinking before stepping back inside and motioning for me to come in. It was dark inside, with only a few flickering candles and old dusty objects in the candlelight. His face was clearer, faint scars across his neck and shoulders as if he had been dragged over sharp rocks. I asked, "Where have you been for those 3 years?" He was silent for a moment and then said in a hoarse voice, "I went down that staircase." My skin crawled immediately. I had never mentioned the bottomless staircase, but he knew. He continued, "When I was young, I had heard about that staircase, but I don't believe I went into the woods alone like you. When I saw it, I thought I'd just take a few steps and turn back, but I kept walking and never stopped." He stopped with trembling hands, holding a cup of cold tea, and placed it on the table. I asked how many steps were there. He said no one could count. When I went down, I couldn't hear anything anymore. No more light, no more sound, no more myself. Asked, "Was there anyone down there?" His eyes darkened. There was, but they weren't people anymore. The shadows stood still, looking at me. They whispered, but didn't open their mouths. The whispers echoed in my head, like hundreds of voices at once. They said I didn't belong in the world above anymore. I shivered. Ask, "Then how did you come back?" He gave a sad little laugh. "I didn't come back. I was pushed up, as if something didn't want me to stay below. The only thing I remember is the feeling of falling and waking up in the middle of the woods on a cold morning." Asked again, "Did you see that staircase again?" Shook his head, but it was always there, in my dreams, in my thoughts. Every night I hear the call. "Daniel." I stood up. That voice was the one I heard through the recording device. How did he know my name? Johann looked at me without blinking. It wasn't that I knew the stairs. No, I couldn't speak. In that moment, I felt like I was being suffocated by the air around me. An invisible pressure seeped into every cell of my body. He stood up, went to the corner of the house, opened an old wooden chest, and took out a drawing drawn in black charcoal. On it was a picture of a dark, spiral staircase sinking into nothingness. On each step there was a shadow standing with its back turned, and on the last step there was a person facing the viewer. Their eyes were empty, like a black hole. "It was me," he said. I felt my head spinning when I left the house. It was dark. I turned back for a last look. and saw the window above was lit. Johann's shadow stood there looking at me without moving, and for a brief moment I heard his voice echoing in first. "Next time you won't come back." Daniele quickly walked out of that area, but the whispers kept ringing. The next episode to find out what made Daniel decide to return to the Black Forest one last time, where the bottomless staircase awaits with a door that can't be turned back.